What's up, everybody? Welcome back to M3 Crypto. We're going to continue to explore the charts, doing our back testing the VAMP strategy, but we've got a really fun podcast for you today. So imagine a scenario where it turns out that Ernest Hemingway was the original author of The Wizard of Oz. You know, for anyone that doesn't know, the Wizard of Oz books were actually written by a guy named Frank L. Baum. I kind of forget now. There's an L in there somewhere. And of course, they're the Wizard of Oz stories. They are fantastical. They're kind of an allegory for different things during the Depression, debatably. But, needless to say, Ernest Hemingway's literary style is very different. It's very grounded. It's not very lyrical or fantastical. So this is absurd. And we are going to listen to a literature review podcast discovering this unearthing of the original screenplay for The Wizard of Oz written by Ernest Hemingway. And I think it's a pretty good listen. I previewed a little bit of it, but we're reacting to most of this together. So this is like we're hanging out, listening to podcasts, doing a little bit of work, a little camaraderie. It's a little bit of workplace repartee. So we are going to play it in 3, 2, 1.
I've got to say, I've never been more excited to jump into a deep dive than I am for this one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've got something really special for you all today, folks.
I was excited, too, when I heard about it.
It's a complete screenplay.
Yeah.
Never before seen.
Right.
By Ernest Hemingway.
Wow.
And it's his take on The Wizard of Oz.
I was floored, I gotta admit, when I first heard about this. Hemingway. Tackling a story like The Wizard of Oz. It's not what you'd think of when you think Hemingway.
Right. But that's what makes this so interesting.
Yeah, that's what's so intriguing about it.
Hemingway. You think about Hemingway.
Yeah.
Stark realism.
Uh-huh.
Focus on the struggles of individuals.
Yeah.
Against nature.
Yep.
And against themselves.
Against themselves.
How does that sensibility translate to a world of witches and wizards? That's what we're here to explore today.
And this is an incredible opportunity, really. This screenplay, it was just recently unearthed from the Hemingway estate. I mean, we were literally the first people outside the family to lay eyes on this thing.
No pressure, right?
No pressure at all.
Okay.
So
let's just, let's not waste any time.
Let's dive in.
The opening scene is titled A Kansas Dawn.
I'm already hooked, I gotta say.
Me too. Just that title alone?
It's just the title.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's hear it.
Here we go. Dorothy lived on a farm. The farm lay on a stretch of flat land under a large and listless sky. Each day began in hard light. Uncle Henry rose before the sun to tend the fields, though they offered little. Anne M. prepared breakfast in silence. Dorothy swept the floor or fed the chickens. Toto, her small dog, skittered about, chasing shadows. It was not a life of comfort. Still, Dorothy loved the land. The land was in her bones, though she sometimes longed to be elsewhere.
Classic Hemingway right from the start.
It is, isn't it?
I mean, that spareness of language.
Yeah.
The focus on just the hard realities of life on the farm.
Yeah.
You even get that subtle hint of Dorothy's inner turmoil there.
I was struck by that as well.
It's Kansas, but it's Kansas seen through Hemingway's eyes.
Right.
Right. We get a sense of Dorothy's resilience.
Yes.
But also this underlying yearning for something more.
It's not the bright-eyed, innocent Dorothy that we're used to seeing.
No.
Yeah, no, this is,
She's a little harder?
Yeah, she's tougher, she's more introspective.
Yeah.
I think there's almost this sense of foreboding even before we get to the cyclone.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
see.
Let's see where this journey takes us.
Yeah.
Here's the next part. A certain morning arrived when the air held a peculiar hush. The light was thin and pale. Dorothy's heart felt uneasy. She heard a distant rattling across the plain. Wind tugged at the shutters. Uncle Henry frowned at the sky and said nothing. He was a man of few words. Dorothy tried to keep her fear tucked away, but the wind grew stronger, and she felt its force stirring in her chest. You can feel the tension, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. Hemingway is just, he masterfully uses those sensory details to build this atmosphere of impending doom.
Right.
That hush in the air,
Yeah.
the rattling across the plains, the wind.
Tugging at those shutters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it all points to something.
Ominous on the horizon.
Yeah, very ominous. And this is a far cry from that lighthearted kind of build-up to the cyclone that we get in the original Wizard of Oz.
Right. And it's like he's stripping away the whimsy and replacing it with this raw, elemental power.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that this is a different kind of journey, and I
Yeah.
think you're right.
Uh-huh.
It feels more like a Hemingway-esque confrontation with nature.
Yes.
Right. This force that's both beautiful and terrifying
Absolutely.
at the same time.
And you see Dorothy's reaction here is different too.
Oh, yeah.
She's not just scared, she's uneasy.
Right.
Yeah, she's trying to keep her fear in check.
Yeah.
And that speaks to her strength of character, the
Absolutely.
stoicism that you often see in Hemingway's protagonists.
That is a great point. Okay, so brace yourself.
All right.
Because here comes the cyclone.
Oh, boy.
Then the cyclone came. It was like a giant black pillar that cut across the fields. Dust rose in clouds. Aunt Em cried out, but Dorothy could not hear the words. She reached for Toto. She held him close. The house trembled as if it might tear from its foundation. The roar became everything, and Dorothy found herself losing footing. Her breath caught. Toto whimpered. The wind took them.
This is where Hemingway's prose, it just shines.
It does.
I mean, it's so visceral. It's almost violent in its depiction of that storm's power.
Raw power.
Yeah. There's no musical score here. There's
Right.
no sense of wonder, It's just pure,
Force.
pure unadulterated force of nature.
And it makes you wonder, what does this say about Dorothy's entry into this new world? It's not a gentle transition.
No.
It's a brutal uprooting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's like he's saying that this journey is going to be anything but easy.
I think you're right about that. Okay, so the cyclone carries Dorothy away, and when she opens her eyes... Well, we're not in Kansas anymore.
I was going to say.
When Dorothy opened her eyes, the air felt different. The house, battered and scuffed, rested not on Kansas soil, but on ground of a different hue. Dorothy stepped outside. The sun was a brilliant blaze overhead. The land itself was arid, a near desert. Yet the color was not the flat brown of home. It held something redder, more alien. Rocks jutted at odd angles. She saw no farm fields, no barns.
It's the classic fish out of water story.
It is.
But again, Hemingway's description is just so evocative,
Sorry,
so
it's-
precise. I mean,
yeah.
you really get this this sense of strangeness.
Oh, yes.
The otherworldliness of this new environment.
And that color of the landscape?
Yeah.
It's unsettling, something redder, more alien.
Right.
It's almost like he's hinting at some danger that lurks beneath the surface.
It's not just a different place. It feels fundamentally different. Yeah, it makes you wonder if Dorothy's journey is going to be as much about just surviving in this new world as it is about finding her way back home.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, so Dorothy's alone,
Yeah.
disoriented, very strange place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she encounters, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
She meets droids.
Droids. In a Hemingway story, I did not see that coming.
Me either. Here's how he describes it. A figure appeared in the distance. Small, mechanical. It rolled on wheels and chirped. Dorothy's heart quickened. It was no man, nor beast, nor anything she understood. Toto barked. She followed. The machine spoke in beep tones, but Dorothy did not know the language.
It's such a strange juxtaposition.
Isn't it?
You have this simple Kansas girl,
Yeah.
and she's confronted with something so futuristic.
Right.
What do you think Hemingway's doing here? Is he introducing technology into this narrative?
It's certainly not what you'd expect from Hemingway.
Mm.
And it makes you wonder, is this just a fantastical element? Or is he saying something about the intrusion of technology, even into a classic story like The Wizard of Oz?
I think that's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
And it looks like this is just the beginning of the surprises Hemingway has for us.
You're telling me. Because next, another droid shows up,
Great.
and things get even more bizarre.
Well, let's hear about this second droid. I'm very curious about this. Okay, so we left off with Dorothy face to face with not one, but two droids in what seems to be a very, very un-Kansas-like desert.
Right.
This is definitely not in the original Wizard of Oz.
Definitely not.
So what happens next?
Well, the second droid is just as strange as the first one,
Okay.
Hemingway writes. Then another appeared, tall, gleaming faintly, its metal shell reflecting the sun's harsh light. Dorothy stepped nearer, uneasy. "Hello," she said.
Oh.
The tall machine said in a prissy monotone that it was a protocol droid. It belonged to someone else.
A prissy droid.
A prissy droid.
That's, you gotta admire Hemingway's dry humor here.
Yeah.
He's clearly, he's having a little fun with these sci-fi conventions.
It's almost like he's poking fun at this idea of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Contrasting this overly formal,
Right.
even snooty droid with Dorothy's just very simple,
Yeah.
straightforward nature.
Yeah. It's a clever way to highlight that clash of cultures, or
Yeah.
in this case, worlds.
Yeah.
Really.
World, exactly.
You have Dorothy representing this kind of like rural American innocence, and she's suddenly thrown into this futuristic, this very like high-tech setting.
And remember, this is Hemingway we're talking about.
Right.
He's not just dropping these droids in for a quick laugh.
Yeah.
This guy, he is a master of symbolism,
Yes.
layering meaning
Yeah.
into what seems like simple details.
Absolutely. So what do you think these droids represent then? Are they just a plot device, or do they have like a deeper significance for Hemingway?
Well, let's not forget that Hemingway was really deeply affected by the rapid technological advancements of his time.
Yeah.
He saw firsthand the impact of war machines, the rise of mass communication, all that.
Yeah.
Perhaps these droids are a way for him to explore those dehumanizing aspects of technology, the way it can alienate us from ourselves and from each other.
Yeah. It's an interesting take on it.
Especially in the context of The Wizard of Oz,
Right.
which is a story that's often seen as a celebration of the simple life.
Yeah. The value of home.
Family,
Yeah.
all that.
Right.
By introducing these futuristic elements, it's almost like Hemingway's subverting those traditional themes.
He is.
He's forcing us to look at how technology can disrupt those values.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So where did these droids, they mentioned they're looking for somebody named Kenobi. Where does that lead Dorothy?
Well, Dorothy, being the resourceful young woman that she is, she decides to follow the droids,
Okay.
hoping they'll lead her to this Kenobi character. I mean, she needs all the help she can get in this strange new world. Hemingway describes their journey through the desert. The land seemed endless. Dorothy walked for what felt like days. Nights were cold, days were scorching. She conserved water. The droids muttered about restraining bolts, about owners. Dorothy half listened. Toto panted, though Dorothy gave him small sips of water. She felt a growing sense that something great lay before her, though she did not know what.
You see that Hemingway-esque stoicism again there?
You do, don't you?
Dorothy just enduring hardship without complaint. She's just focused on the task at hand.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of characters like Santiago from The Old Man and the Sea.
Yes.
That solitary struggle.
And notice how Hemingway emphasizes the vastness,
Yeah.
the emptiness of the landscape.
Right.
It's almost as if he's creating a parallel between the physical journey and Dorothy's inner journey.
Oh, I like that.
Right. She's lost, literally.
Literally and figuratively.
And figuratively.
Yeah.
She's searching for meaning and direction in this unfamiliar world.
And you get the sense of anticipation, too.
Yeah.
This feeling that something big, something great is out there waiting for her.
Yeah, lying ahead.
Yeah, I wonder if this journey is ultimately leading Dorothy to a greater understanding of herself.
I think you're right. I think you're onto something there.
Even if she doesn't quite realize it yet.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so they've been trekking for days through the desert.
Days.
Finally reached their destination.
They do.
What do they find?
At last, they found a small dwelling. Adobe walls, a low dome. There she met an old man. His beard was white, his eyes sharp. He watched Dorothy from beneath heavy brows. She introduced herself. The man nodded. He said his name was Ben Gale Kenobi, and that the droids carried a message for him. Ben Gale Kenobi.
Ben Gale Kenobi. Now, where have I heard that name before?
Hmm.
It's hard to ignore that Star Wars connection, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But we should be careful about jumping to conclusions.
Right.
We're in Hemingway's world now, not George Lucas's.
Exactly.
And he's a master at taking these familiar archetypes and flipping them on their head.
Subverting expectations.
Exactly, subverting expectations.
So let's
see what this Kenobi is all about.
let's see what this Kenobi's all about.
Right.
The droids play their message, and it turns out to be from a princess who's in some kind of trouble. The tall droid played a flickering recording, a luminous figure who spoke of trouble, war, and urgent need. The figure said, "Help me, Kenobi. You are our only hope."
Classic damsel in distress, right?
It is.
But, knowing Hemingway, I
Yeah.
suspect there's more to this princess than meets the eye.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And this is where things take an even more unexpected turn, all right?
Okay.
Kenobi explains that the princess is being held captive by a tyrannical empire, and that he's the only one who can help her because he possesses a power known as the Force.
Right.
He told her there was a hidden power in the land. He called it the Force. He said it bound all living things, though some refused to believe in it.
Okay, so now we're really getting into Star Wars territory. Yeah, this is where those two worlds, Hemingway and Star Wars, really seem to collide.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to think about how Hemingway might have interpreted this concept of the Force, you know?
Right.
Would it be a mystical force, like in the movies?
Yeah.
Or would he ground it in something more tangible, something connected to, like, nature or human resilience?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And I think it's key to understanding this whole screenplay, really.
It is.
Is Hemingway using the Force as a metaphor for something else?
Right.
Is he talking about the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity?
Maybe.
A theme that runs through so much of his work.
It does, yeah. Or maybe it's a way for him to explore this idea of interconnectedness, you know?
Yeah.
The way we're all bound together by these unseen forces.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, Hemingway was very interested in those themes of fate and destiny.
Yes, he was.
So it makes sense that he would be drawn to something like the Force.
So we have this Kansas farm girl, Dorothy,
Yep.
suddenly thrust into this intergalactic conflict,
Yeah.
learning about this mysterious force
Yeah.
that she doesn't fully understand.
Right.
Where does this lead her?
Well, Kenobi manages to convince her that they need to help this princess first.
Okay.
And then maybe, just maybe, they can find a way to get her back to Kansas.
All right.
So they set off on a new adventure,
Another one.
this time to find a pilot who can take them to the princess.
And here's where Hemingway's signature style really shines.
Oh.
He describes their journey to a rough and tumble desert town
Oh, yeah.
with incredible detail. They arrived at a settlement of low buildings pressed against the sun-baked earth. Creatures and men mingled. There was a tang of sweat and desperation in the air. Dorothy felt uneasy. Kenobi led her into a tavern where the light was dim and the music was odd. Dorothy clutched Toto, who squirmed in her arms. The droids were told to wait outside. Kenobi said the patrons disliked mechanical folk.
It's like a scene straight out of a classic Western.
Isn't it?
You can almost smell the dust.
Yeah.
Hear the clinking glasses, sense the danger.
Lurking in the shadows.
Yeah.
Classic Hemingway.
Oh, yeah, that gritty, atmospheric setting.
But it's fascinating to see how he takes this familiar Western trope and juxtaposes it with these futuristic elements.
It's like he's creating a whole new genre.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, blending Western, sci-fi, fantasy
All of it.
into something totally unique.
Exactly. And in true Hemingway fashion, they find their pilot in this seedy tavern.
Of course they do.
A guy named Han, a bit of a scoundrel,
The classic rogue.
also a very skilled
It
smuggler.
was a heart of gold, I bet.
Of course. And of course, Han's ship is anything but ordinary. They left the tavern in haste. Dorothy saw movement at the end of the street. Uniformed men, faces beneath helmets. They carried weapons. Kenobi told her these were the Empire soldiers. They do not welcome dissent, he said, voice tight. They boarded Han's ship, a battered freighter that looked untrustworthy at a glance. It reminded Dorothy of the old truck behind Uncle Henry's barn. Rusted, worn, but with determination under the hood.
I love that detail about the ship reminding Dorothy of Uncle Henry's truck.
Yeah.
It's like a subtle way for Hemingway to connect her back to her roots.
Yeah.
To Kansas.
Back to her roots.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the resourcefulness of these characters.
It does.
They're making do with what they have.
Yep. Even if it's a rusty old freighter.
Exactly.
Held together with spit and prayers.
That's right. A classic underdog story.
Classic Hemingway. But this time,
Yeah.
it's set against this backdrop of a galactic war.
This is where things get really exciting. You've got this rickety ship
Yeah.
pursued by the Empire's soldiers, hurtling through space towards an uncertain fate.
Yeah.
And through it all, Dorothy remains at the center.
She does.
This unlikely heroine,
Yes.
trying to make sense of it all while still yearning for home.
I can't wait to see what happens next.
I know, right?
How does Dorothy navigate this dangerous new world? Does she embrace her role in this intergalactic conflict? And what about the Force? Does she learn to wield this mysterious power?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait for the next part to find out.
Yeah.
Last we left off, Dorothy, Kenobi, those droids, Han and his furry little companion, they were all crammed into that ramshackle freighter,
Yeah.
blasting off into space, into the great unknown with those Imperial forces hot on their tail.
Right.
It's a classic Hemingway setup,
It is.
a group of unlikely heroes
Yeah.
facing overwhelming odds
Uh-huh.
in this harsh, unforgiving landscape.
Right. Except this time the landscape is outer space.
Outer space, exactly.
That's what makes the screenplay so fascinating.
Yeah.
Taking these familiar Hemingway themes, courage, resilience, that struggle against fate,
Yeah.
and putting them in this completely unexpected context.
It really is. It's like he's asking, what happens when you take a Hemingway hero and put him in a Star Wars movie?
Right.
And the answer is, at least in this case, pure brilliance.
Pure brilliance, yeah. So don't keep us in suspense any longer.
Okay.
Where does this perilous journey through space take Dorothy and her companions?
Okay, well, hold on tight because things are about to get even wilder.
Right.
Their journey takes them right into the heart of the Empire's power.
Okay.
A gigantic space station that dwarfs anything Dorothy could have ever imagined.
Wow.
Here's how Hemingway describes it. Their voyage was not peaceful. An enormous station loomed in space like a moon. But Kenobi said it was no moon. It was a fortress built by the Empire. They were caught in a tractor beam, pulled into a vast hangar. Dorothy's throat clenched with fear. She would call the Towers of the Wicked Witch in a bedtime story. This station felt worse somehow.
Yeah.
Harsher, colder.
That image of the space station just looming there like a moon.
Yeah,
So striking.
it is.
Speaks to that overwhelming power of the Empire, this force
Yeah.
that seems to control everything, even the stars themselves.
Yeah, and I love how Hemingway uses Dorothy's childhood memories of the Wicked Witch
Right.
to give us that sense of scale and dread.
Yeah.
It's like this space station is like the ultimate embodiment of evil,
Yeah.
cold, impersonal, and just utterly terrifying.
It's interesting how he uses those familiar touchstones,
Yeah.
the Kansas farm, the Wicked Witch,
Yeah.
to ground this fantastical story in something relatable.
It is, it is. Even in the vastness of space, Dorothy's perspective remains our anchor.
It does.
Okay, so they're trapped inside this massive space station,
Yeah.
surrounded by stormtroopers.
Right.
Their mission is to rescue the princess, who's being held prisoner.
All right, so it's a classic rescue mission, but with a Hemingway twist.
With a Hemingway twist, exactly.
What do you mean by that? What sets this apart from your typical, rescue scene?
Well, think about Hemingway style.
Okay.
He's not one for over-the-top action
Yeah.
or melodramatic dialogue, right?
Right.
He's all about understatement, showing rather than telling.
Showing rather than telling.
And that's exactly how he handles this whole scene.
So we're not going to get a John Wayne-style shootout with a bunch of stormtroopers.
Not exactly, no.
Okay.
It's more about the tension,
Yeah.
the fear,
Right.
that constant threat of danger.
Uh-huh.
Hemingway focuses on Dorothy's observations,
Okay.
her internal struggle to stay calm when she's facing overwhelming odds.
It's that quiet heroism that defines so many of Hemingway's characters.
It is.
They may not be flashy or loud,
Right.
but they possess this inner strength that allows them to just endure,
To keep going.
keep going when everything seems lost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they manage to find the princess, and they're making their escape when Kenobi encounters this mysterious cloaked figure.
Ooh, this is where it gets good.
This is where the story takes another unexpected turn.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, here's the scene. As they made their escape, Kenobi faced a cloaked figure. The figure's presence loomed like a shadow. Dorothy sensed a formidable power, a swirling darkness. Kenobi ignited a blade of blue light. The cloaked man wielded red. They clashed. Toto barked wildly. Dorothy felt Kenobi's resolve. He was not afraid. He told Dorothy with his eyes that all would be well. Then the cloaked man's weapon struck. Kenobi vanished. There was only empty robes on the floor.
Wow, that's a powerful scene, really powerful.
It is, right.
Full of symbolism and emotion.
Yeah.
You have that clash of light and darkness, the loss of a mentor figure,
Yeah.
the presence of something mystical and unknowable.
And notice how Hemingway handles Kenobi's death.
Yeah.
It's sudden, almost matter of fact.
Yeah.
There's no grand pronouncements,
Right.
no last words of wisdom or anything.
It's just a quiet acceptance of fate.
It's classic Hemingway.
Classic Hemingway, that stoic hero
Yeah.
facing death with dignity and grace.
But it's also heartbreaking, especially for Dorothy.
Oh, of course.
She's lost her protector, her guide, in this strange new world.
So how does she cope with that loss?
That's the key question.
Yeah.
How does this experience change her? Does she give in to despair? Or does she find a way to carry on?
To honor Kenobi's sacrifice.
She does what any true Hemingway hero would do.
What's that?
She pushes forward, she channels her grief into action, she joins the rebels in their fight against the Empire, and in a really stunning turn of events, she ends up piloting a starfighter in this climactic battle against that giant space station.
Dorothy in a starfighter. That's...
I know.
I did not see that coming.
It's a bold move by Hemingway, and it just speaks to this incredible transformation Dorothy has undergone.
Right.
She's gone from this scared farm girl to a warrior.
Wow.
Fighting for the fate of the galaxy.
It's a testament to that human capacity for growth and resilience, even when facing unimaginable adversity. So, does our Kansas-born starfighter pilot save the day?
She does.
She does.
She does. She uses her intuition, her connection to the Force, whatever that may be, and maybe just a little bit of that Kansas grit to destroy that station.
It's a triumphant moment, but I imagine it's got to be bittersweet too, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, she won the battle, but at what cost?
Yeah.
And what about her journey back home?
Well, after that battle, Dorothy's honored for her bravery. But all she really wants is to go back to Kansas.
Of course.
Back to her simple life.
Yeah.
And in a scene that blends Hemingway's realism with just a touch of that Wizard of Oz magic.
Okay.
She finds herself back in her aunt and uncle's yard.
Wow.
As if no time has passed at all.
It's a beautiful ending, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
The weary traveler returning home, forever changed by their experiences.
It's a classic theme. But Hemingway gives it his own unique twist.
How so?
Dorothy may be back in Kansas.
Yeah.
But she's not that same innocent girl who left.
Right.
She's seen the vastness of the universe.
She's faced death.
She's faced death. She's fought for something bigger than herself.
And that experience, even if she can't quite put it into words, it's going to stay with her forever.
Oh, yeah. It'll shape her whole perspective.
She's brought a piece of that other world back with her.
She has.
A deeper understanding of herself and where she fits in the grand scheme of things.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
And it resonates, even decades after Hemingway's death.
It does. This screenplay, it may come as a surprise to some folks.
It does.
But it reminds us that even in the most unexpected stories, we can find those timeless truths about what it means to be human.
Well said.
Yeah, and it leaves us with so much to ponder, you know? What does this story tell us about Hemingway's views on technology, war, the search for meaning? What can we learn from Dorothy's journey, this unlikely hero who finds herself at the center of an intergalactic conflict?
Those are questions I think each listener will have to answer for themselves.
That's right.
But one thing's for sure, this screenplay is a gift.
It is.
It's a glimpse into the mind of a literary giant.
A true giant.
Who continues to challenge and inspire us.
He does, even in the most fantastical of tales.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that about wraps up our depth dive into Ernest Hemingway's Wizard of Oz.
It does.
It's been a wild ride, full of twists and turns, but
it has.
Definitely a journey worth taking.
It was.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop searching for those unexpected stories that remind us of the power of imagination.
And the enduring beauty of the human spirit.
Well, that was pretty fun. Let's review the results. Yeah, this one didn't quite fit. Yeah. So here's what we got. I think we started here. This trade, let's just color these in real quick. Yeah, we're making filament at the same time because I've got to multitask. Let's see here. I think we only have one that would be a keeper. And I do believe it was a winning trade. Remember, green is all 5. Yellow is 4, orange is 3. Yep. So this is interesting. I'm going to have to review some of the other charts, but I believe our actual buy condition, we're recording data here. Our actual buy condition is we want a yellow with a green. Or we want a green with a green. Or we want a green with a yellow. Now this is not a yellow, but the on-balance volume first cancels out this on-balance volume since it's not a strong enough indication. So it's sort of like a yellow. We get 4 out of 5. It's maybe a little stronger than a yellow. So that means that of the 2 trades we've recorded so far on this chart, they are both winning trades. Now this one did not go to the 2-to-1 ratio mark, but it did circle back. It circled back so that we would at least, if we were doing that, make 0.75. And the point of doing that, as I've said before, at the end of doing a bunch of this, we're going to see whether a 2-to-1 ratio is better or a 1.5-to-1 ratio is better. Now I believe this was like months ago, I believe the 2-to-1 ratio actually in the long run does end up being more profitable. But that's why we're doing the tests. So yeah, let's go through them. This one only had the 3 out of 5, and so did this one. This was, let's see, maybe this was a keeper too. Yeah, okay. So this one was a loss, a small loss, but it's got the yellow with the green over here, the green volume pattern. And that was a 0.192% loss. So very small loss. So if we're doing the 1.5-to-1 ratio, this would have made 3% so far, minus 0.192%. Or it would be 3.75 if we're doing the 2-to-1 ratio. Either way, making a lot of money. This is only in a few weeks, and this is only on one chart. Remember, we're doing 75 charts at once. Yeah. That just sounds like such a high number, but it actually is true. Just sounds wrong to me to say 75. And these ones, this one would be a valid trade, except the RSI was wrong. Remember, okay, I've got the wrong one turned on here. Yes. The yellow is for shorts, the black is for longs. Let's actually go back and maybe we messed this up. 121.24. Okay, 121.24. What time of day? 3. Yeah. So this was supposed to be a short. Oh wait, that seems wrong. Let's see, 121.3. Man, I must have. Oh, it's supposed to be 221. See, it's good to check your stuff for this reason. Yeah, I got in the zone there. 221.3. Yes. Okay, so this actually would be a valid one. See, that's why we go back and check these things. So this is 100. I had the wrong thing activated. So yeah, this would be a 0.39% loss, which sucks, but still, on balance, you're making money. If it's 3 minus, we'll just do the math here. For anyone that doesn't know, I've got a calculator right here. 3.9. This is actually a really old calculator, and it does things in a slightly strange way. And then 192. Okay. There's something messed up with the subtract key, but the point is that's really good. We'll wrap it up there, and we're getting into it. We're almost at the end of the second month, so maybe this won't take as long as we thought, but thank you for watching, and actually we do have a couple comments on Discord. Let's read them. Yep. Alright. Okay, somebody posted in the wrong thread. I'll be watching these just to keep an eye on the crypto world. My honest take is that it's a shell game, but with more complexity. I guess he means for buying and holding. Yeah, I only do long investing in Bitcoin and maybe a couple of other small or large caps. At least 50% Bitcoin, maybe 25% Ethereum, and then maybe you can throw in with some other stuff. M3, are you following? This is Sandingo. That last one was Space Brain. Sandingo says, M3, are you following stock to flow or power law? I think he means the stock to flow model or power law model. I'm not really as focused on the long term. I'm basically accumulating during bear markets when it comes to Bitcoin, which this would have to be referring to Bitcoin, I think. I guess it could be referring to other things, but that's usually what people mean. Stock to flow. I haven't looked at Plan B's predictions. He's the guy that invented the stock to flow model. But my predictions are that Bitcoin is going to peak in probably close to September or October of this year. I expect it to be 130 to 150K easily, so up another 50 some percent. And that is the last one. So thank you for watching, and comment below what you want to hear more of and ideas for the podcast, obviously. And if you want to hear other crypto analysis and stuff, I'm down to do that as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.